And we are live. Another CEO Wisdom podcast. Today with us is Cletus Coffey, the first Cletus and the first coffee I interview. Had my cup of coffee today, right now fueling on chocolate and turmeric and all kinds of good compounds to keep my brain active after 10 CEO interviews today. Really happy to have Cletus Clay, which is the next athlete. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about coaching. We're going to talk about mindset, grit, everything in between, sales, obviously, too. Cletus, I'm really glad to have you on. This pod is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to start, scale, get invited to a podcast like this one, get knowledge, get insights, leads, and even sales, even clients. Cletus, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about Torch Training?
Awesome. Charles, thank you so much for having me. Just brilliant the work that you're doing and the people you're interviewing. So I'm grateful to be in this community of folks. So thanks for having me. Yeah, definitely. Cletus Coffey. I'm based out of Seattle, Washington. And here's the deal. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, 2-sport athlete in college. Went and followed, I don't know if it was a dream or if it was desperation. When I left my university in my final year, I just felt like I needed another season. I didn't want to keep going. I didn't want it to end. And so I shuffled around and found myself an opportunity to play football in the Canadian Football League and went to Saskatchewan. And then came back into the States and played in the Arena Football League. And like most American football players, it's a good 4-year ride. And after that, you're pretty much done. So by the time I was 27-ish, 28 years old, I broke my leg, Charles, and my career was over. And so I then went on this journey of who the heck am I now? I've been this thing for 80% of my life, and now I'm no longer it. And so society kept telling me, well, why don't you go be a coach, and actually sport coach? Or why don't you go into sales, Cletus? You're an athlete. You know, set goals. You know, work as a team. And so I ended up trying them both. And honest, I sucked at them both. And they didn't align with me. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. So as an athlete, I had valued myself based on the scoreboard. And when I was not doing well in these careers, I went into a dark place. Really, why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. And that was really the pit of myself, of my darkness in trying to determine what is my next chapter.
What a question. And I can understand that darkness that stem from that place. I've never been a full-time athlete, but I can somewhat imagine, because I've been injured a couple of times running ultra marathons, doing Ironmans and so forth. And when I cannot train, I cannot get my candy, And I was talking with, and it's not a candy, it's more like a gazelle that's running around and I'm a lion, I need to chase it. The pain fuel goes up, the pain fuel, it needs to go down, because else if it doesn't go down, you put it on others, right? Well, at least I'm that way. And I know many athletes are that way. So biochemically you get frustrated. Psychologically, you're not the thing you intended to be, or body is or mind, So I can only imagine what it felt like to have a broken leg and sitting around and not knowing what to do with your life. Like, how did you get out of that dark pit?
Yeah. So, and look, I had to take my lumps. I didn't have to. I took my lumps, and I was fully responsible for it all. So, I bounced around from sales job to sales job thinking, oh, it's got to be the job. It's not me. It's the job. It's my manager. It's the industry. So I bounced around to different places trying to, following shiny objects. And it wasn't until I actually got my first taste of entrepreneurship that all of a sudden I was like, I'm back.
Oh, yeah.
That felt like being an athlete once again. And so the challenge was, I didn't know any entrepreneurs. No one in my family, none of my friends, they were all going in their careers and crushing it. I'm approaching my 30s going, I got it. I want to do this thing. So just young and dumb, I got into the finance space and started a financial company. We originally were brokering money for commercial finance, and then the residential boom here in the States took off. And so I jumped on that train. I was chasing money, not a good thing to do. And so as if I couldn't think my pit could get any darker, it did, because the economic crash of 2008-9 hit. And that started a whole different path of, wow, I'm broke. I'm broken. I'm on the verge of bankruptcy. I'm going through a divorce. I'm now a single dad. I was spinning. But what I did was I started to say, look, I know what I did ultimately, Charles, is I pulled open the drawer of my athletic career. Because once I got out of sports, I said, I'm no longer an athlete. I want to go be a business person.
Right.
And so I had to open up my drawer, because if success leaves clues, there's got to be some clues in there as to what helped me during that time. So it was that moment, that action that I took that really saved me, because I started to reconnect with, oh, okay. This is what resiliency is. Oh, this is how I exhibited it back as an athlete. Here's how I found myself really just settling. I was settling for these odds and ends jobs. I'm like, hold on. I never went into sports saying, all right, I'm going to join this team and sit the sidelines. No, I'm going into that game to be the best. And so I started asking the question to myself, where can I be the best? What am I capable of? What am I good at? What do people say I'm good at? What is the marketplace value in me? And let me start to go do that. And initially that was speaking and presenting and get up in front of groups. I've always done that and never really thought of it as a career. So that really launched my initial journey of, okay, let's start speaking. But then the imposter syndrome hits. Oh, who wants to listen to me? I don't have anything to say, So then I'm battling that internal with myself until I just said, look, the only way I'm going to, reading personal development books and just diving in and saying, look, I got to push myself towards that which I'm fearful of. So speaking and training, and that kind of merged into coaching, and I was doing a lot in the athletic space. And then I started Torch training, and really with the intention of working with business owners who, like myself, are grinding, they're hustling like crazy, they're spending long hours trying to build their businesses, and they're not happy, they're not fulfilled, their families are falling apart, just like mine did. They're disconnected from the kids. There's just all this carnage that happens because we're so driven for accomplishing and achieving results on the scoreboard. And that just, it frustrated that I was guilty of all of that, and yet seeing others going through it as well. And again, relationships getting torn apart, people in depression and anxiety. And I was like, I got to be a solution to this, and I want to be a voice to say, look, business owners, high achievers, those individuals that are wired that way, you can still be great, but let's create a lifestyle where you can have success in all areas. And you can do the things that are most important to you, that are in alignment with who you are. But we got to figure out who that person is. So that launched and birthed Torch.
Love the message, dude. Love the message. My question is, when you were in that very dark places after the economic crisis, the divorce, the family, what was your process to hit rock bottom? Did you try to hit it as fast as possible? Did you extend the pain? Is it just like something that's unavoidable and your heart pieces back together? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. I guess I initially went the rocket ship the other direction initially. And then what I was doing was I had patterns, old patterns that I had developed over time from childhood through being an athlete, and that I was unaware of. I was unconscious to them. And so until for example, I ended up getting into another relationship and brought the same person into that relationship and got the same results. And I think, what is there's a common denominator here, and it's me. So the first thing I did was started to look at my patterns. What were my patterns around money, around connection and love, and business and relationships? What was my pattern around that, and where did I need to shift it and change it? And once I started, and this was little things like, for example, my morning routine. My pattern was just kind of, I got kids, I get up, I get them to school, and then by 9 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, where am I at? And so I made a really decision to say, like, I'm going to change my pattern in the mornings, and I'm going to dedicate the first 2 hours to me. And kind of like as an athlete, like we had to warm up before practice, before games. I never warmed up for my business day. I just got launched right into it. So now I use a warm up per se to get myself sharp, get fired so I can launch out. It was those patterns that really helped me stair step my way out of darkness. It was not like, okay, now I'm here, because there were setbacks, as you know, things that I tried in business that didn't work. And so, but I learned from each iteration to get to where I'm at now.
How can you look at the scoreboard? Because it's like brain vs heart, right? The brain part is cool. You look at the numbers, the science, it can bring tons of value. But if you forget the heart in the process, the feeling, you're fucked. So how can you do both at the same time? Is that even doable?
Yeah, I think it's necessary. And the first thing we need to do is to get honest with ourselves as to, okay, who am I? Because I know for me, I got a really good habit of lying to myself, lying to others. I didn't want people to see that I was a floundering entrepreneur. So they asked me, how's business? And it's great. Lying. It was all BS, but my ego was in the way. And so that awareness piece of who the being aspect of the heart aspect of it, and recognizing that, man, I'm a human being, just like you and I. Like, we can help each other. We can support one another if I just understood what you were going through. And so I made a commitment, talking about pattern break, I made a commitment to being vulnerable. Once I did that, two things happened. Number one, I connected to my heart for the first time. And all of a sudden, doors were opening that previously were closed, because I was going at them with the scoreboard. I'm going to open this door to make money. I'm going to open this door to try to get somewhere else. And so, but it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't giving me any results. I was not feeling fulfilled. So we can still have those things on the brain aspect of the things that are on the scoreboard. We can still enjoy those things. We can still have those things, but we don't identify with them. So that when a business does fail, or a relationship, a potential customer doesn't buy, it's not like, oh, I didn't do it very well. What's wrong with me? It's like, hold on. I know who I am. I'm connected to my heart and my beingness. And the things on the scoreboard are not a reflection of my self-worth, who I am as a man, as a business person, as a partner, as a father. It just wasn't the right fit. And the scoreboard is there just to give us feedback on how we're doing.
Right. On my side, I get the money part settled, right? It's the back end. I posted about that yesterday. You can't move without money in this world, in this capitalist system. Completely ridiculous to think that can be a communist or a hipster living on a beach, you know? Well, I mean, if that's your best version of yourself, go ahead. But me, I want to help the world, you know? So I get that checked. And once I get that cash in my bank account, my full heart is into it. My heart is always into everything that I do. But it's like, yeah, money is check. And then I'm going to get my heart. I'm going to make everything in my power to make you succeed. Why? Because you showed me some respect. You showed me that you cared. I'm going to show you that you care now. So that's my tip, to have both brain and heart in every project that I do. Now I still have a question though about honesty. Honesty has always been a top principle of mine. When I entered the sales world, was not flushed down the toilet, but it took the side, you know, and that's how most of us are being taught sales and marketing, you know, like fake scarcity and $97 a month instead of saying $100. And yeah, all that bullshit. I quickly realized that wasn't scaling. So nowadays I don't do any of that. And I'm radically honest, so much so that I lose clients. You know, I'm losing a bunch of money, but I don't care. First, I think this money is going to come back to me in way larger quantities. I might get canceled, sure, but I'm fully honest. My question to you is, even to this day, when it comes to admitting that something is not doing right, I have found still that in some situation, not talking about it, not lying about it, saying, yeah, everything is perfect, but just like, yeah, it's cool, and closing the convo. Sometimes this helps me more with some individuals in my life rather than talking about it. Is it about saying that to the right people that you think can help you? And because there's two approaches to fix stuff in life, right? There's the emotional route, okay, like calming myself down, and then there's action, right? Action can also fix your stress, like results, right? So basically my first question is, sometimes is it somewhat okay to just close the conversation or not tell the truth, like a white lie, so that you can have peace of mind, so that you can get shit done and fix your problem? And the second question into that is, what is the fine line between manifesting something and visualizing something and really being positive about everything and fucking lying to everyone, FTX style?
Yeah, here's the thing. When it comes to your relationships and the connections, and this could be your employees, it could be your intimate relationships, your kids, your family, so forth. What I found is, for myself, not only was I lying about where things were at, but it was also the things I was not saying that was hurting these relationships, such as, I'm lost, I'm struggling, I don't know what I'm doing. And instead of simply saying that and being open and being vulnerable, knowing that I'm disconnected from whatever's going to happen when I say that, whatever this person is going to say, I can't control that. I can control my attitude, my effort, and how I respond. So the lying was not only what I was saying, but what I wasn't saying. And what I would encourage is, you're going to have your superfluous relationships where, yeah, you may just say, hey, all's good, and move on. But if you are looking at your relationships that have some depth to it, or you want to have some depth or need depth and connection to them, because I'll tell you, with employees, the more you can understand who they really are, because who they really are is going to affect your bottom line. And so it's important for you to get, and I call it personal culture. It's important for you to get super clear on what your personal culture is and understanding the personal culture of the people you are working with and you're in relationships with. Otherwise, we're just hiding. We're hiding from one another. And who does this the best? Men. We're so good at just getting together and talking about the score of the game and talking about, what's going on, versus hey, dude, I'm hurting right now. I'm hurting. And just letting you know. And opening up and supporting one another. It's powerful when we do it.
Eben Britton, I believe the guy's name, the guy in the NFL. Have you heard about him? He was managing Mike Tyson's podcast. I highly recommend folks to him, and yet for you to connect with the guy. He's also an ex-NFL, and very much into openness and the taking off the mask of masculinity, the false mask, that is the toxic mask, toxic being something that's not helpful for your life. Two insights I got listening to you there. First, relationships that are important, invest in them, water them, and that means probably being vulnerable, so there's an advantage there. And second, you didn't say it directly, but my insight is, when you're at the start, being vulnerable might not be positive for you, depending on what psychological level you are, because it's you'll manifest negative shit. But once you have your guard down and you've practiced enough, vulnerability is not manifesting. And I use the word manifesting loosely here, but it's just like me, when I say negative stuff, I don't want to manifest them, right? Because I know I work the pathways in my brain. But the level 2 would be that I say how I feel, and then I follow up with a potential solution, or I follow with a different neural pathway. So I don't stimulate the negative shit, but I stimulate the positive stuff. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, it's a reframe, right? You're just reframing. Okay, that's a story I'm telling myself. What's the reality in the present moment? What is my reality? This story about the past or what I'm fearing is just a story. So we can reframe it to, well, what if, to your point, what if it could do it the way I want it to, not in the negative way? And that tool of reframing can really help settle anxiety and fear and put you towards manifesting the things that you do want.
Love it, dude. To finish off this podcast, maybe tell us what you're into with Torch Trainings. What are your goals this year?
Yeah, so Torch this is a really good growth year for us. Obviously, we've been doing working one-on-one with clients and in group, and my whole focus with Torch is transformation versus transaction. To your point, I've done the world of selling online courses and all that. It's transactional. I want to see true change. I want to make transformation. All the information that is needed is out there. We're really in a place of transformation. So having some transformational live events is on the docket for us, to bring those where we can be experiential and not only learn, but learn through activity and through process. So continuing to grow our coaching groups, and then getting us together in person is where we're headed this year.
Oh, good job for that, my man. Really love your energy and your message. It was super good. Where can people find out more about you online?
Yeah, gang, if you just go to bethetorch.com, that can get you access to Torch. And then again, I'm Cletus Coffey, so cletuscoffey.com if you want to reach out to me either way. And I'm at Cletus Coffey. And to your point, I'm the only one. So I'm at Cletus Coffey on all social channels. Would love to connect.
You one and only. And I'm Charles Cormier, your host. That was another CEO Wisdom podcast. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to pod, go to podfire.com. My man Cletus